y'all, it's Jessica from Sloppy Swatches. Today I have the Infinity Stones collection available now from Lucky 13 Lacquer. I will link her storefront down below. These were sent to me for review. This is a collection of 6 different rainbow hued micro glitter polishes. They also glow in the dark and they're UV reactive, really complex. I love complex polishes like this. These were of course inspired by the Infinity Stones within the Marvel universe, so I'll go ahead and show you how these swatch. All of my swatches today will be topped with Lucky 13 Lacquer's Quick Dry Top Coat. This is called Elemental Ward. I will also link it down below. So first up is Stone of Reality, and this one is described as a full coverage tiny cherry red hollow glitter in a squishy red base. It is UV reactive. I'll show a picture of both the UV reaction and also glow in the dark. I will not be stamping with these today though. Here's a quick brush shot and I'll show you how Stone of Reality swatched on my natural nail. For me, this collection is kind of split into 3 and 3. 3 of the polishes have a thicker formula and 3 have a more thin one. Stone of Reality does have a pretty thick formula. It helps it be really opaque really quickly though. I prefer a thicker formula, but if you don't, you could always add thinner. So here is one coat. I got good coverage. I'm going to let this dry and then come back in for a second coat. So here is the second coat. With the polishes that were a little bit thicker, I tended to kind of overload my brush and do a quick swipe and then let it dry down a little bit. And that really worked well for me. So 2 coats is going to bring this one completely opaque. I don't get a ton of hollow sparkle in there. So I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like in sunlight. It was kind of overcast that day where I'm at. We've had a lot of rain, so this is even more sparkly. In direct sunlight, you get a ton of that glitter in these polishes. This is my swatch photo under artificial lighting, and here it is once more at an angle under artificial lighting. This is probably my second favorite of the entire collection. This is how it reacted under UV lighting. It just made like a bright deep orange, and it did glow a nice soft green. So next up is Stone of the Soil. I got a little bit of acetone there on my label. This is described as a full coverage tiny orange hollow glitter in a squishy orange jelly base. This one is also UV reactive and also glows in the dark. So this is a little bit of a deeper kind of burnt orange. I'll show you a brush shot and I'll show you how it's swatched on my natural nail. This is one of the formulas that is a little bit on the thicker side. So I'm going to do one coat for nice even coverage and then let it dry and come back in for another coat. So here is the second coat. You can see these do dry down a little bit textured. I did get a little bit more hollow feel from this polish as opposed to the red. 2 coats is going to bring this one completely opaque for me. So here is a view in direct sunlight at an angle with top coat, and you can see all of that hollow that comes out. I think this is a very fall appropriate color. It was like screaming for me to paint pumpkins on it. This is my swatch photo under artificial lighting. Once more at an angle under artificial lighting. And this is how it reacted under UV lighting. It turned very, very bright, very vivid. It also glowed a very bright green. So next up is Stone of Time, and this one is described as a full coverage tiny gold hollow glitter in a squishy golden jelly base. This one is also UV reactive and also glows in the dark. This is one of the ones that is a little bit more on the thin side in terms of formula, and I'll show you a brush shot and I'll show you how Stone of Time swatched on my natural nail. So this one is quite a bit sheer. It's kind of expected with a gold or a yellow. You do get a lot of that hollow glitter. You can very well see my nail line, so I am going to let this dry and then come back in for a second coat. So here is the second coat. You can see that the base kind of dries down around those glitters a little bit. It makes it a tiny bit textured. 2 coats does not bring this one opaque, so I am going to let this dry and then come back in for a third coat. So here is the third coat, and this does build it up a little bit, but I still was able to see my nail line. I do have a lot of visible, a lot of length, so I have a lot of nail line to show. So I think in retrospect, I would probably sponge this one on and then finish it off with a coat for like a jelly finish. Here is a view from another angle in direct sunlight. This is my swatch photo under artificial lighting, and once more at an angle under artificial lighting. This one is insanely bright under both UV lighting and glow in the dark. I got a good reaction out of this one. So next up is Stone of Space, and this one is described as a full coverage tiny emerald green hollow glitter in a squishy green jelly base. It's also UV reactive and also glows in the dark. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Stone of Space swatched on my natural nail. This is one of the formulas that's a little bit on the thinner side, so the first coat is pretty sheer. You do get a good amount of those green glitters though. I do feel like the polishes that have a little bit more of a thinner formula are more user-friendly, a little bit easier to use. So I'll go ahead and show you what a second coat looks like. This does build it up a little bit. I can still see nail line though, so it's not quite opaque for me. So I'll let this dry and then come back in for one more coat. So here is the third coat. I did do a nice thick third coat, and this is going to bring this one completely opaque. You get a ton of glitter, a ton of sparkle. So here is a view from an angle in direct sunlight. This is my swatch photo under artificial lighting. And once more at an angle under artificial lighting. Under UV or black lighting, this is super bright as well. It looks like a slime green color, and it also glows really well, a nice green color in the dark. So next up is Stone of the Mind. And this is described as a full coverage tiny royal blue hollow glitter in a squishy blue jelly base. It's also UV and glow in the dark reactive, so I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Stone of the Mind swatched on my natural nail. So here is one coat. This is another that has a little bit of a thinner formula. I wasn't really expecting it looking in the bottle. It looks super like dark and vampy and glittery. I did get, a fair amount of coverage with one coat, so I am going to let this dry and then come back in for a second coat. So here is the second coat. And this builds it up a little bit. It's pulling a little bit like purplish, like blurple on my camera. In person, it looks more like a really dark navy, so I'll let this dry and then come back in for one more coat. So here is the third coat, and I am going to do a nice thick third coat, and this is going to bring this one completely opaque for me. It's really pretty in person. This is towards the top of my favorites in this collection. So here is a view from a different angle with top coat in direct sunlight. This is my swatch photo under artificial lighting. Once more at an angle under artificial lighting. And this glowed a nice like bright blue under UV lighting. It was really cool to look at, and it also glowed a soft like greenish color. So lastly today I have Stone of Power, and it's described as a full coverage tiny dark orchid hollow glitter in a squishy purple jelly base. It's also UV and glow in the dark reactive. I'll show you a brush shot, and this is my number one pick out of this collection. It is one of the ones that has a thicker formula, so I'll show you what it looks like in one coat. You get a nice amount of coverage, lots of glitter. I did do a nice kind of thick first coat. I am going to let this dry and then come back in for one more coat. So here is the second coat, and this is going to bring this one completely opaque for me. I think 2-coater micro glitter polishes are kind of amazing. You also get a lot of hollow in this one. So here is a view from a different angle in direct sunlight with top coat, really gorgeous. Here is my swatch photo under artificial lighting. Once more at an angle under artificial lighting. And one of the reasons I love this one so much is how cool it is. It shines like a bright hot pink under UV and glows a bright blue in the dark. So that wraps up my swatch and review of the Infinity Stones collection. These are available right now. I'll have those linked down below from Lucky 13 Lacquer. Believe it or not, I do have more photos available on my blog at sloppyswatches.wordpress.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at sloppyswatches. So thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next time.